All right, thank you, Clark. Hello, I am Bro Criff, the executive editor of Indy Star, and welcome to the Republican mayoral candidate town hall here. Thank you to the crowd that is here live and in person, as well as the crowd online watching us through YouTube, Facebook, and on our site. Also, thank you to the candidates who have joined us to share their thoughts and beliefs about Indianapolis and how we move forward as a city. Like you, we care about the greater good of the city. In fact, it is part of our mission. And the way we serve that mission is through gaining access and equitable access to democracy. And I can think of no better way to do that than to host a town hall like this for the people here as well as online. With that, I want to talk about a little ground rules. If everybody in the audience can make sure that their phone is silent, and then everybody also please be respectful and quiet as our candidates share their thoughts. And from that, I will introduce Oshia Boyd, our public engagement editor here at Indy Star. She will be moderating, and please welcome her to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Bro. Good evening. As Bro said, I'm public engagement editor Oshia Boyd, and I'm glad you could join us, in person and virtually. If you live in Indianapolis, I think it's safe to say you want this city to be the best it can be. The question is, how do we get there? There are obstacles and challenges ahead for sure, but our city is capable of greatness, and each of these candidates believes he is the right person to lead us there, at least for the next 4 years. Tonight, you'll have a chance to hear from all 4 of the Republican mayoral candidates on why he should get your vote. The candidates may be at the front of the room, but this town hall is all about you, the voters of Indianapolis. We want to ask the questions that are most pressing to you. Many of you submitted questions via email or note cards. Your questions were vetted for appropriateness and redundancy, and will be interspersed with the questions we've prepared. So here's how it's going to go. Each candidate will give a 2-minute opening statement, and we'll rotate between 1 question for all candidates with 2 minutes to answer, 1 question for individual candidates to answer with 1 minute each for those. We will rotate the answering order so the same candidate doesn't always go first. To help keep track of time, we have a timekeeper in the back who will let us know when time is winding down. I want to make it clear this is not a debate. There won't be any back and forth between the candidates. Also, I ask the audience to be respectful and courteous to each other and the candidates. Here are our candidates: business owner and former city county council member Jefferson Shreve, attorney, political writer, and commentator Abdul Hakim Shabazz, Reverend James Jackson, pastor of Fervent Prayer Church, and candidate Larry Couch. Let's get started. I'm sorry?
John Couch.
John Couch. I'm so sorry. I keep doing that.
Okay.
Let's get started with our opening statement. We'll start with you, Mr. Couch.
Hey, I'm John Couch, Republican candidate for Indianapolis mayor. Everything's all about money, money, money. I am here to win the election as well as represent the Republican Party. I don't owe anybody anything. Nobody owes me anything. I'm here to do a job. I'm a person of action. In my past experiences, I have been able to get everybody on the same game page and make change. I'm a person of action. I believe in getting things done, and I will get things done. I've been a head soccer coach. I've worked in a paralegal certificate. I've worked in for Title USA, Biltmore office in Arizona. I've been involved in racing, manufacturing, you name it. I have left companies because people ask me to do things that are against my beliefs, and even though they offer me more money, I won't do them. I'm here to change the city of Indianapolis. We have a lot of issues that are very important: public safety, infrastructure, education, animal safety, and as well as a strong economic security. I'm the person to get the job done. I will get the job done. and I can't be bought. I don't know anybody anything, and I earn respect, and I will earn your respect and trust if you give me the opportunity to be your next mayor of Indianapolis.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson.
Good evening, and thank you for hosting this and organizing this. I'm James Jackson, and I've lived in Indianapolis for 44 years, married to my lovely wife. Dee will be celebrating 30 years this year. 4 beautiful daughters look like models, 2 handsome grandsons. I am the lead pastor of the Fervent Prayer Church for 29 years. I started that church April of 1995. It's a wonderful church. We have a Christian school and daycare that serves a great number of children for the last 26 years. I also served on the Board of Public Safety, appointed there by Mayor Greg Ballard. Also served on the Indianapolis Police Merit Board for 4 years, also appointed there by Mayor Greg Ballard. I'm also currently a commissioner for the state of Indiana, Indiana Civil Rights Commission, appointed by Governor Eric Holcomb. I'm excited to be here on this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shabazz.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank the Indianapolis Star for putting this together. Thank all of you all for showing up. Thank my colleagues here for being here as well. My name is Abdul Hakim Shabazz. You can just call me Abdul, because the only person who calls me Abdul Hakim Shabazz is my wife, and she usually does that when I'm in trouble. So that's kind of that right there. As you all know, I'm an attorney, college professor, political writer, commentator. And each one of those jobs, I've always had the theory that you leave things better than when you found them. So if a client comes to me with a legal issue, I try to leave them better off. If a student comes to me with a question, I try to leave them a little bit better educated. As a political commentator, I try to leave the audience more informed so the audience can make better decisions. And that's what I want to do if I become mayor of Indianapolis, do that exact same philosophy and leave the city in much better shape than when we found it. And we do that by dealing with public safety, dealing with public works, and reestablishing public trust. And a lot of this you can find at abdulfriendly.com, so if you want to not wait for me to give my answer, you can go see on my website. It's all right there, abdulfriendly.com. But I'm looking forward to answering all your questions and being on the panel this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shreve.
O'Shea, thank you for hosting us. I appreciate the opportunity. My name is Jefferson Shreve. I'm a son of this city, and I am working hard to earn our party's nomination to compete in November to lead our city. My background has principally been in business. I founded and grew a company here in Indiana. Indianapolis has been good to me. My first job as a young person was in an office building just up the street where I cut my teeth on real estate and then went on to grow a business that grew to some size. I've sold most of that business. And through that past 30 years, I've been engaged in the civic life of our city. I've had 2 stints on our city county council, representing parts of Perry and Center Township, and I've served as a commissioner on the Metropolitan Development Commission. I think that what I offer is that combination of deep engagement in city government and that entrepreneurial ground up running an organization that grew to be an organization of some size that I can lever together to help move our city forward. I've done business around the Midwest. I've been in markets that would have competed with Indianapolis. Some we competed favorably, others where we have lost ground. And so I've had that opportunity to see that contrast, and I'm convinced, sadly, that our city is drifting. It's just drifting. And I want to help turn that around. And what more meaningful vantage point from which to do that than the office of the mayor for this city. So I thank you and look forward to sharing more on those thoughts.
Thank you. So our first question will be to everyone, and you will get 2 minutes to answer this question. So, and we'll start with you, Mr. Jackson. Explain one specific policy proposal you have that the city is not currently doing to address public safety concerns, crime rates, and homicides.
Thank you. One is the importance of ending the early release of repeat violent offenders. Last year, Crystal Walton was violently and viciously murdered by Mr. Orlando Mitchell. He was out on a 366-day suspended sentence, and he didn't get the help that he needed before he was released. And I believe that if he had gotten the help that he needed, Crystal quite possibly would be alive today. That's a very important policy. As mayor, I will work with our local legislature and state legislature to make sure that we are ending the revolving door that is contributing to the high number of homicides that we're now seeing.
Thank you. Mr. Shabazz.
One thing I would do that the city is not doing right now is bring back the Office of Public Safety Director. Imagine going to war, having an Army, a Navy, an Air Force, and a Marine, and no Secretary of Defense. You got the president basically running the entire show. And the president can't do that because the president's got other things to do, just like the mayor. The mayor's got the economic development, we got to fix the roads. So we need somebody who can eat, sleep, and drink, and think public safety 24/7. And now the first thing I'll do is bring back a public safety director. And then I'd work with our public safety infrastructure, our judges, prosecutor, Marion County Public Defender, to end early release. Because if you look at it, if you look at our murder rate, which by the way has averaged like 200 murders a year for like the past 4 or 5 years, since we got rid of the public safety director, by the way, is we put together our public safety infrastructure. Like, we got to deal with this early release. Because if you look at our murder rate, 77% of the victims and 80% of the suspects all tend to have prior adult felonies. And had somebody maybe been behind bars, somebody might still be alive today.
Thank you. Mr. Shreve.
I agree with these two gentlemen on both counts, and it's striking that the Democrat challengers to our sitting mayor have voiced some of these same ideas and feel like this is clearly a direction that we need to go in with respect to bringing back a director of public safety and working with the judiciary side of the House and the prosecutor to turn some things around. But by the numbers, we clearly need more men and women on the force on the streets of our city. Objectively, we are down considerably from where we should be. We have fewer sworn men and women on the IMPD today than on January 1st of 16 when the Hogshead administration started. Today, well, actually as of the 27th, we have 1,543 officers. That is down over 100 from where we started. And our sitting mayor promised to increase that starting point by 150. So we're 250 off from the promises that were made when we came out of the gate. I served on the IMPD Staffing Commission. Over the course of a dozen meetings, we wrestled with the data and determined where we needed to get to from that count. And this administration has missed the mark year after year after year. What's the consequence? You don't have the officers on the streets to police proactively. When we see this, the crime scenes on the news, every single night we'll see a swarm of IMPD cars, but it's all reactive policing because they aren't in the neighborhoods, they don't attend the neighborhood meetings, they're not communicating with citizens. You don't see officers on the street, on the beach. We can't get ahead of it that way, and we burn out the officers that we have because they're working so much overtime. We're losing them. We got to do better.
Thank you. Mr. Couch.
The main thing to stop crime is self-control. I like bringing in, not just for our students in school, but also make it available for everyone. The investment is low, the gain is unlimited, but safety, listening skills, anger management, critical thinking classes can be available for everybody in the city of Indianapolis and Marion County because it's self-control. I have no control of your actions, your thoughts, or anything like that. And the problem is people aren't demonstrating self-control. And that's where we got to start at. And for our law enforcement officers to make things easier for them, we need to create a GPS system with cameras. So if a crime happens in a neighborhood, the cameras associated in there, that they can immediately pull those cameras up and see the direction the potential suspects are going, so they can do a much better job of utilizing who they have so they can catch the suspects when they're leaving the scene of the crime, because it makes it a lot easier for them, because right now we're playing chase the criminal. This way we can stop them when they're leaving the scene of the crime. It makes it a lot easier for the prosecutor, for the investigators, and everyone. We need to utilize what we have until we are able to get more officers, until we are able to get more law enforcement, and make it easier for them and utilize what we have. And the main thing is we got to catch the criminals, like I said, as they're leaving the scene of the crime, because if we catch them with the goods, it makes it a heck of a lot easier to get them convicted.
Thank you.
Also, if a person runs on a bracelet or cuts the bracelet off, that needs to be automatically escaped, because it doesn't matter if you leave Marion County Jail or your home. If that's where your jail is at, that's automatic escape. They got to stop letting them go back out on, violate and put them back out on their bracelets. Thanks.
Thank you.
You're in charge.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I just thought you were done, and I kept interrupting. Sorry. No, you're fine. Did we start with you, Mr. Jackson? I can't read. Yes, I thought so. Okay. This question is to everyone again, 2 minutes each, and we'll start with you, Mr. Shabazz. Historically, when we discuss redevelopment, we're talking about downtown. We put money into trails, but what about sidewalks? What are you going to do for neighborhoods to not just make them safe, but walkable versus focusing so many efforts on downtown?
One of the ideas I'm looking at right now, we're still doing some research on this, is create almost sort of like road-esque type TIF districts. In other words, we collect a penny from the sales tax or the gas tax from a gas station and basically draw a mile circle around that gas station, use that for roads in that area, use that for sidewalks in that area, use that for street repair in that area. So that way we've got a dedicated source of funding to get that done. Now, to do that, you got to go to the legislature and make that happen. But luckily, I have relationships with a lot of the lawmakers, because I've been covering Indiana government for almost 20 years, that at the very least, I can get them to listen. And if that idea doesn't work, give us another idea to work with.
Thank you.
Brevity is always a hallmark of a good presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Shreve.
So as a city county councilor, you go to neighborhoods as just part of the job, and there are people that want sidewalks on their streets, and they want their alleys resurfaced or paved, and sadly, you just have to say, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. And that is the truth for so much of this. The funding to come in after the fact and connect all of our neighborhoods with a sidewalk system, it just is unlikely to be there. And so that's the honest reality. We have front and center funding challenges that we've got to deal with in our city. Connectedness of neighborhoods is something that we're going to have to do strategically, which is also code for selectively. But I know from firsthand frustration in trying to get my own projects in my district prioritized that can be painfully slow. Painfully slow. The juice is in the mayor's office and DMD. District councilors don't have a lot of that, and I'm determined to use the office to amplify the flow of some of those resources and to get that done more efficiently. But I won't make the campaign promise that I'll put sidewalks in all the neighborhoods that don't have them around our county, unfortunately.
Thank you. Mr. Couch.
Isn't just the sidewalks, it's also our main roads and roads that we're able to do so. We need to put in a bike lane and a lane that people can jog in and get people back in recreation. The neighborhoods that we can do both, we'll do it. In the neighborhoods that possibly we can't, we can definitely at least improve the sidewalk or be able to do things necessary that the homeowners in the neighborhood want done. But we need to get people back to have an opportunity to, I like to see the city of Indianapolis be one of the recreation leaders in the Midwest, if not across the United States of America. Not only are we going to be the amateur sports capital and be recreation, racing, all the way down the line.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson.
Well, this is an exciting opportunity. I'm currently on the READY board, which is connecting Hancock County and Marion County. And I was on the CAFE board, which is Community Alliance for the Far East Side, for 10 years. And that's the hub of the community where a lot of the money from the city comes into that particular place and is dispersed out into the community. And we've done a lot of work with the John Marshall, it used to be John Marshall Community High School, and repurposing that facility to provide resources within walking distance for the folks who live in the communities. And so I think when you have redevelopment downtown and you build things downtown, I think all around town there are buildings that are not being used that could be repurposed. I think there was an idea that's being done in some of the counties around Indianapolis where we want people to be within 10 minutes of being able to walk to a grocery store, to worship, to play, and different things like that. There's never a shortage of money as far as sidewalks are concerned, potholes, and resurfacing our streets. Working with our state legislature, state legislators, making sure that Indianapolis is getting what it needs. We have about 8,400 miles of travel surface, and our city makes up about 13% of the state, but when the money is dispersed, we just don't get enough of it. We get about $30 million, which is about 4.5% of that. So we have to make sure we're holding the state accountable, working with our state legislature, looking at maybe build grant, federal highway grants, money, surplus money in the lottery fund, the rainy day fund, and all this together, private, public sector, to make sure that we have sidewalks all throughout Indianapolis to make it safer for the people who live here.
Thank you. This next question, we will go through individual round, so each of you will get a question and you'll have a minute to answer. And we'll start with you, Mr. Shreve. You've served in elected office before, 2 terms on the city county council. What have you accomplished in that time that should give voters confidence you can serve them well as the next mayor?
Well, in some respects, not enough. To my point earlier, I mean, the juice is not in the council seats, but it's in the mayor's office. And it's part of my motivation for running, because my ability to affect change and move the ball down the court was limited and frustrating. So I come out of private business. To be mayor is not king, but to be mayor is to have appreciably more influence and authority to get things done. So my background is as an executive. And my frustration in being one of 25 on the legislative side of the House didn't marry up with what I am very much trying to do, because there's a whole lot more that I would like to do as an elective office in the executive than I was able to do on the council. But the preparation, the understanding of the complexity of this city, it's a complex machine. And it's not a great place to start on the job learning it if you haven't had that background.
Thank you. Mr. Couch, this one is coming to you. What issues do you see with the current administration's leadership that led you to decide to challenge the incumbent mayor?
I'd say it's a whole city. I moved here in 1989, and the city as a whole, at this point, the crime, the infrastructure, economic development, items that were promised by the city council as well as the mayor, they're not getting done. You know, when they do get started, they're not finished. I'm going to use the Justice Center as an example. There's supposed to be a bus stop so anybody with disabilities, everything else, or anybody taking the bus will be able to be right there. It's not. It's way over here. Everybody's supposed to be moved over to that facility so everything's right there. It's not. We're supposed to have a traffic court and a city of Indianapolis court. However, we don't, because it's not going to be overseen by Marion County Superior Court, which I disagree with. They're just, the promises that are made, they're not backing them, and I know that I'll go in, I'm a person, my word of my, I have a lot of verbal agreements, I get the job done, and I'm a person of action.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson, you've never served in elected office before, though you've done work in local government on the IMPD Merit Board from 2010 to 2014, and on the city's Board of Public Safety in 2009. Why should voters trust that you'll have the experience needed to be able to serve them as mayor?
Well, although I have not been elected, I've been able to work with people to get things done. Project Indy is my youth jobs program, which was Clean for Green, that was born out of a community effort. We employed and mentored hundreds of young people. In 2015, juvenile crime was almost at 0, according to Chief Height. Also received in 2014 the Community Service Award, 2016 the Crime Fighter of the Year award from IMPD, and from the governor, the Trailblazers award. So all these things have prepared me to be mayor. So I think even though you're not mayor, when you are a leader, you don't have to be mayor to get things done, and I've been able to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Shabazz, questions have been raised about controversial comments you've made in the past. You've had some agree, you've had some disagree. Can voters support you to unite the city when you've been a divisive or polarizing figure so far?
I would disagree with the term polarizing. As a college professor, one of the things I do is encourage my students to think and engage in critical thinking. And by engaging critical thinking, you learn about your position, you also learn about the other positions as well. Do I stand by mostly everything I've written over the past 20, 30 years? Yeah, I wrote it. I wrote it in a way that my mother and grandmother would see it. So they say, don't write something you don't want your mom to see. So I wrote it in, I stand by what I said. However, as mayor of Indianapolis, I'm mayor for everybody. I'm mayor for whether you're black, white, gay, straight, pink and purple polka dots. I'm mayor for everybody in Indianapolis. I believe every citizen in Indianapolis deserves to live in a neighborhood where you have safe roads and good streets. And that would be my priority as mayor.
Thank you. We never need our timekeeper for you.
We're all behaving.
Thank you, I appreciate it. This question will go to everyone. You'll have 2 minutes. Indianapolis is a city that was founded and built on taking big risks. Building a city on a non-navigable waterway, investing to be the amateur sports capital in the world, and building a football stadium without an NFL team. What big risk idea would you seek to tackle as mayor? And then we'll start with, I guess we'll start with you, Mr. Jackson.
Well, one, I want to go back to 7 years ago, Visit Indy, and the city of Indianapolis were working on the concept of putting a beach down on White River, which would have been done by 2026. And the present administration just failed to capitalize on that. So that's something that I would revitalize. It would just bring so much to the city. The second big idea that I've been researching and thinking about is putting a high-speed train between Indianapolis and Chicago. There are already some fantasy boards out there on the internet that shows that Indianapolis is positioned so very well for a high-speed rail to come from Chicago to Indianapolis and then out to some of the more important cities. Indianapolis is the second most important city in the American Midwest region. Chicago is the most important city in the American Midwest region. That kind of relationship and big risk would be a risk that would benefit lots of people. In fact, on that beach downtown on the White River, it was suggested that it would bring 5 million visitors to Indianapolis every year. I think it would be significantly more than that, so that's something I'll be working on.
Thank you. Mr. Shabazz.
If you look at where Indianapolis is, and compared to Chicago, St. Louis, Louisville, and Cincinnati, I argue that Indianapolis should be the capital of the Midwest because we're centrally located and basically 2-3.5 hours away from each of those major cities. So how do you do that? Well, actually you start by actually poaching Chicago jobs because Chicago's about to have a mayor's race next year, not next year, but next week. And one of the candidates is talking about leveling a corporate tax for corporations that are in the city for like $4 a head for corporations over 50 people. I don't know how that's going to create jobs or do anything, but I'd much rather have those jobs here in the capital of the Midwest, so that's going to be my goal in my term is to make Indianapolis the capital of the Midwest.
Thank you. Mr. Shreve.
In my view, the mayor is not in the position to take big risks for the city. The mayor's got to manage your resources. So the mayor needs to lead those that are most engaged and involved in this on big bets, but not big high-risk plays because it's all of our money. But Indianapolis has not had a guiding vision that we all coalesced around since the amateur sports strategy. Well, I mean, that's 45 years old now. We don't own that space. And we've got a lot of competition from markets like Nashville that are building brand new arenas and convention space, and we are ceding ground to that. And so as mayor, I want to lead that, not unilaterally, but if I come out of this primary, I need to lead that effort with other key stakeholders in our city to figure out what our big bets are going to be on that will be the next multi-decade play. And there are some good ideas out there, but those need to be ideas that we come together, civic, business, and the philanthropic community. Because when we can bring those three together, and God bless the Lilly Endowment, this city can get some good things done.
Thank you. Mr. Couch.
Excuse me. One of the areas that we need to take a look at as far as developing is the area land right around the airport. I hear a lot of different ideas, and I think they're all good. I would not be opposed to some hotels, casinos, some type of restaurant, dining type of thing, a little convention center or place to hold events, whether it be plays, concerts, that type of thing, to get that land around the airport developed so we can create jobs and opportunities for people to entertainment or whatever, because everything's right there. I don't want to do anything to hurt any of the convention. I think people that do the conventions do a lot of events in our city do a great job. I just like to create another area opportunity for people to do something. I have no problem around that area taking a look, doing that. But that land's been sitting empty for a long time. We need to develop that. Something else I like to do is change animal control from City of Indianapolis animal control. I like to create a Marion County animal control and keep our put in a no-kill policy, keep our animals safe and as well as people safe. The other avenues I like to see is I like to bring a Major League Baseball team, a national an NHL team, keep the professional sports that we have, create more venues to hold plays and concerts and that type of stuff, and create those type of opportunities, and as well as keep the convention center that we have. I also like to take a look at possibly increasing the size of Lucas Oil Stadium so we can host the Super Bowl on a regular basis.
Thank you. So this question again is to everyone, 2 minutes, and it's a long one. Just so you can put your listening ears. Republican supermajorities in the General Assembly redrew the state's congressional, state house, and state Senate districts in 2021 following the 2020 census. Democrats, including those controlling the city county council, forcefully criticized the state house Republicans for not using an independent commission to assist them in drawing maps that would create competitive elections. In 2022, it was time for the city county council to redraw our 25 council districts, and the Democrats in the supermajority redrew the maps without any input from an independent commission. Were the Democrats guilty of hypocrisy? And even if they were, do you think they drew competitive districts? This is 3 questions. As a mayor, would you urge the creation of an independent commission to help draw the maps after the 2030 consensus? So I'll hold on to this just in case you need me to go back over. And we'll start with you, Mr. Shreve.
That's kind of a complicated one. So I started out in District 23, and I was drawn into District 16, and next year my home will be in District 23. I'm not sure. I mean, these are the ground rules that we live and manage to, and the party that's in control will have that influence. But it's a democratic process by which the party that's in control draws those lines. And so would I leverage a lot of the energy of my administration into trying to upend that? Probably not. Probably not. I didn't think that the district lines that were redrawn for the next decennial period were crazy or unfair. And so I'm okay with it.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Couch. Do you need me to repeat the question?
Well, I understand the question. It doesn't matter how the precincts are set up or anything like that, because it goes by the number of people living in an area, and it doesn't matter what party you're with. I'm a head soccer coach, so it doesn't matter who's on the other side. We still got to come out and do our job, do the things have to be. So it doesn't matter how the political line or how the precincts are set up. They're going to be set up in a way that everyone agrees upon, and it's going to be adjusted by the number of people that are in that precinct or ward or some to the Congress all the way up. So it's just a matter of everyone working together and getting everything done correctly. And going out and wasting, spending money, consulting with someone that everyone else can come up with the same answer, to me is a waste of money.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson.
Well, in answer to your first question, was it hypocrisy? I don't think so much hypocrisy as it was political. Secondly, from the things that I've heard and the reason why these districts are drawn like they are, what's most important is the people. And I think when you start drawing districts to make sure that people don't win their election or force people out of different precincts with regard to elected officials, that's not just wrong, it's morally wrong. I think it would be good to assemble a task force or assemble a team that would come together and talk with Republicans and Democrats about that issue and have some mediation there to make sure that it's fair for the people and that it's fair for elected officials also. If I didn't have knowledge, what I would say interior knowledge as to why sometimes those lines are drawn as they are drawn, then I might have a different opinion. But it's not just wrong. I think what we have is, in Indianapolis, we need moral leadership. Good moral leadership will do things in a way that's not going to benefit any one person, any one party, but it's going to benefit the people. If it's not about the people, it's not about anything.
Thank you. Mr. Shabazz.
I've covered 3 redistrictings, 2000, 2010, and 2020. 2000 back in my home state of Illinois, 2010 and 2020 here in Indiana. Indiana is a Republican state. Let's just be honest about it. So you're obviously going to have more Republicans in the legislative body than you are Democrats. Marion County is fundamentally a Democratic city, so guess what? You're going to have more Democrats in office than Republicans. That's just a fact of life. And I always find it interesting that people ask for an independent redistricting commission, because redistricting is fundamentally politics. And politics, there is no real independent redistricting commission per se. There's going to be somebody somewhere who's more Republican, more Democrat, who wants to draw the maps in their favor. So the way to get around that is just win elections. You win elections, you get to draw the maps. Unfortunately, folks, in politics, the victor goes the spoils.
Thank you. So these next questions will be individual questions, a minute each to answer. We'll start with you, Mr. Couch. How can we stiffen penalties for carrying an illegal weapon in Marion County?
One thing that I've seen go on is the state is moving a lot of those illegal weapon charges to the federal level. And on the federal level, they're only going with a maximum term of 10 years. And generally, you only have to do 5. I believe it should be more, like 20 years. I think if you use a weapon during a crime, it should be a terrorist act. And the person should be also not only they're found guilty, it should be found as a terrorist and be treated that way. The illegal weapons, part of the reason why we have a problem is that we are allowing people to go in people's homes that are doing other illegal activities to purchase whatever drugs they want, and they have access to these guns. And so we need to, if a gun's illegal, we need to go, instead of 10 years, we need to go 20 years. We need to make it day to day.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson, what is one specific policy proposal you have that is not currently being done to address the affordable housing shortage and homelessness in Indianapolis?
I would say making sure that we get the information out. There's a lot of, in the research I did, there are a lot of organizations that help people who are dealing with homelessness, people who are dealing with problems paying their rent, but the information is not disseminated in a way where people are able to grab it with ease. They have to go look for it. And I think that would be a policy to make sure that the information gets out to the people, PSAs, text messaging, internet, saturate the community with information. In fact, I got a call today before this asking me about where you could immediately get an apartment. And I think that people should be able to get this information very, very quickly. Billboards, the Indianapolis Star, and anywhere there's information where you can see it and very quickly get housing.
Thank you. Mr. Shabazz, this one's coming to you. My son was shot and killed by law enforcement responding to a 911 suicide crisis call. We all saw what happened to Herman Whitfield. As mayor, how would you improve 988 response? What are your specific plans to address crisis response?
The first thing is, the mayor's got two jobs. Number one, support law enforcement. Number two, also hold law enforcement accountable. Those two walk together hand in hand. And you can't, because you can't have one without the other one. Let's just be brutally honest. Obviously, if I become mayor of Indianapolis, we're going to do a sort of a top-to-bottom review of IMPD, their practices, their mental health situations as well, to see what IMPD needs to do their job and do it right, do it well, so we can support our police officers and hold them accountable at the same time.
Thank you. Mr. Shreve, you're a businessman and clearly have executive leadership experience. But how would you ensure that people who aren't always included in big business growth and development will see benefits under your leadership?
My job as mayor is to build the best sandbox for everyone to be successful in this city and to set the stage to pull the community up. I want Indianapolis to be that magnet, not just for financial capital and investment, but for human capital and investment. We have people that move from other counties in Indiana, but we don't get young talent down in Raleigh or Texas that picks up and wants to move into Indianapolis yet. We don't have that reputation today. We need that. We need those young people that want to come in and invest and make their mark in this city and reap the successes that it can offer, that it has offered me. We want those opportunities to be there. I'm evidence that they can be, and I want to make it possible for so many more.
Thank you. So everyone will get a chance to answer this question. The next two questions, actually, you'll have 2 minutes. How will you prioritize robust, sustainable development goals, SDGs, for the city of Indianapolis by 2030 and address environmental climate justice? The city is the 5th most polluted city in the nation. And I think we'll start with you, Mr. Jackson.
You said BGs?
SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals.
So how will I...
How will you prioritize robust, sustainable development goals for the city by 2030 and address environmental climate justice?
Okay, good. One of the things we need to do is look at some green infrastructure technology with regard to our paving our roads, bioswales that will take the water off the roads. Also, smart streets and smart streets have to do with smart traffic lights, smart street lights, which will also have sensors in the streets if we start moving towards that. And what that does is that reduces emissions. People won't have to spend a lot of time looking for parking spaces. It will reduce commute times. Smart streets technology is being used in some other cities. Indianapolis needs to get on board and start taking advantage of and implementing some of these things. And by 2030, we would be one of the cities leading in that regard.
Thank you. Mr. Shabazz.
A couple of things on environmental and sustainability. Now, first of all, it has to be done in a fiscally responsible manner. I mean, that's just point number one, because the city's only got so much money in this budget. We got lots of issues, lots of concerns, lots of priorities. So anything we do with the environment, number one, has to be fiscally responsible. One thing I would do, and I just thought about this actually walking down here from Monument Circle, is sync the traffic lights along Meridian Street. Because if you think about it, you got to stop, start, you sit there idling, you're putting pollution in the air. If the traffic lights are synced along Meridian Street, it solves a multitude of issues. And so it's little things like that I think can help. Also, gradually changing the building codes so that we encourage builders and developers to build sustainable projects, both with tax incentives, but not necessarily burdens on them.
Thank you. Mr. Shreve.
O'Shea, I didn't know that the city was held out as the 5th most polluted city in America. So
I didn't either.
yeah, so I'm not sure I'm going to buy into that premise. There are environmental challenges that we are working on at different levels in our city. We've got the coal ash ponds that are front and center out at AES. We've got pollution in the White River that we are making progress on. But we've obviously got to improve upon that. Citizens Energy and the Big Dig and the collector system is going to continue to improve the stormwater discharge there. And so this isn't new. And some of these efforts go back to the Peterson administration. And I would contend that we are making progress. Is this going to be priority number one in the Shreve administration? No. But as part of placemaking, that is a priority, because this has to be an attractive community and environment in which people are going to live, invest, and make their home. And so that all has to fit together in the calculus.
Thank you. Mr. Couch.
I'm very big on solar power. It's a move that we need to make. There is a company now that's creating a solar charged vehicle. Purdue and IU, they already have a solar powered vehicle, and we need to, for our law enforcement and our operations people, to take a look at creating a solar powered vehicle. For our law enforcement, it'd be great if it was a 4-door Indy car, but solar power, solar charged. For our operations people, the same thing. Now, IndyCar has created a different biofuel, which is, man, they said it, I apologize, I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's a different fuel they are using than what they usually use in ethanol. It's really unique. And then today, found out Toyota is dealing what they call a DAV, which is supposed to be a hydrogen-based fuel. So there's opportunities out there. I'm very big on solar. There's a lot of solar grant money out there. There's a lot of opportunities for it. I like to get the solar initiatives out. I like to be able to get people to swap their homes over to solar. We also have, as far as homes, we have homes that are built prior to 1970 or about the 70s, prior to the permit issues. So we got a lot of homes. We got to swap. We got to help figure out a grant program to get the grant money available so homeowners can get the guts changed out of their home. That's the wire, electric, the box, or we switch it to solar, switch it over to solar, and also swap out hot water heaters and the main plumbing from the meter up into the home, and make that available for all homeowners in the city of Indianapolis and Marion County. But there's grant programs out there, so we wouldn't have to use taxpayer dollars to take care of it.
Thank you. Again, this question is for everyone. We'll start with you, Mr. Shabazz. If past city elections are any indicator, only about 20% of Marion County voters will turn out in November. Do you have any plans to improve voter registration and turnout? And do you think municipal elections should be moved to an even number year so that more voters will participate?
No. I do not believe in moving municipal elections to an even numbered year. Actually, what I believe in doing is moving races like the sheriff and the prosecutor's office to municipal elections. So that way all the municipal issues are on the ballot right then, right there. You got your mayor, you got your county prosecutor, your auditor, county treasurer. All those local offices are on the ballot right then and there. As far as turnout goes, it's really more about the candidates than it is about anything else. You have competitive races and quality candidates, people will turn out. Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, back in 2008 when they ran the primary, voter registration and voter participation turned up because it was a competitive race. So I think it's more about the candidates who are the issue than the process itself.
Thank you. Mr. Shreve.
I agree with my friend Abdul on both points. I think alignment of the municipal races makes sense, and I'm convinced that competitive primaries pull that engagement. In our city, we've had 3 cycles of sleeper mayoral primaries, and so I think that what we have here is helpful, that engagement, and that will increase turnout, participation, and interest that is so important.
Thank you. Mr. Couch.
I ran for state representative this past election, and the thing I noticed was, even in the primary, the Democrats outvoted the Republicans almost 2-1, and that carried over to the general election. And so, Republicans, listen, get out and vote. Vote in the primary, you have 4 candidates to choose from, and definitely in the general election, so we can flip the city from Democrat to Republican. And that's all it is that the Democrats there's more Democrats voting than Republicans. So if you're a Republican, get out and vote. That's all it is. We're just getting outvoted.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson.
Well, I think we're going to see the greatest turnout ever in the city of Indianapolis. We got some great candidates who are on the Republican side. We're going to see a really good turnout. But I think also when we're in between these elections, it's important that we have folks who are working with civic organizations, the faith community, folks in the school systems, in high school particularly, making sure that people have education when it comes to voting, and making sure that folks who are not registered get registered, vote. Get out the vote. That's important. That's something that we can all be involved in, and that's something that we need to do.
Thank you. So we've actually come to our final round of questions. You all have been just moving through the questions.
Like I said, brevity is always a hallmark of a good presentation.
I think people appreciate that. So we'll start with you, Mr. Shreve. This is going to be individual questions, and you'll have a minute to respond. How would you approach Indianapolis' relationship with the Indiana General Assembly, which has been at times in the past one of conflict and disagreement?
For things to work for Indianapolis and Indiana, there has to be a cooperative spirit between the 2 ends of Market Street. And it is the case that there isn't much of that right now between the administrations and the leadership in the chambers of the General Assembly, although I think our governor and mayor get along pretty well. But we just have to work together, most critically at figuring out the infrastructure funding proposition. Indianapolis cannot solve that on its own, and we cannot count on the General Assembly bailing us out. We got to work closely with the Indiana General Assembly, with the House leadership, the Senate, and on the executive side, INDOT by fiat can get a lot of things done if we can get our governor on board on that relationship. I am a Republican, and so that is helpful with the leadership that we have there. But that's not a cure-all. We've got to come together and make that work.
Thank you, Mr. Couch. If elected, would you invite the NRA convention to return in the future?
Yes, I would. The people that are responsible gun owners, they have no problem registering their guns, doing whatever, keeps them safe, this and that. They're not the problem. The guns aren't the problem. The problem is the people that are carrying them or handling them. Because I've never seen a gun go bouncing down the street and then fire off and then go bouncing back to wherever they came from. Generally, there's a person behind it. It's self-control. The NRA, yes, they are for Second Amendment rights, bear arms, carry arms, this and that, but they also preach safety. And if you want to go hunting, you got to take a safety class, and they are for safety and things, and they have a right to free speech as an organization just as much as anybody else. But they, the guns aren't the problem. It's the people that are handling them.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson, you've worked for most of your life in Christian ministry in Indianapolis.
That's
What
true.
would you say to voters who are not of Christian faith, who are unsure if you'll represent all of their interests and religious freedom, since Indianapolis has a huge diversity of religions?
I understand the differentiating factors between that, and I have worked in the community for a long time, and I understand what room I'm in and when I'm dealing with people. And I'm on my second term as a commissioner for the Indiana Civil Rights Commission. And when you are serving at that level, you can't have any biases. You cannot govern at that level through the lenses of your faith, although my faith does play a part in the things I think about and the things I do. But I'm very well aware of that, and as mayor, you're mayor of all the people, and that's how I would serve. I would serve as mayor of all the people of Indianapolis.
Thank you. And Mr. Shabazz, we'll end with you. So 30 seconds probably. What after-school programs, if any, can we offer kids to keep them busy after school and out of trouble?
I'm glad you asked that question. If you go to abdulforindy.com, it's up there under my public safety list. What I would do is work with the church community, the business community, and the university community. The church would open their doors between 3 and 8 o'clock in the afternoon, because that's when kids are most likely to get in trouble when mom and dad aren't home yet from work. The businesses would pay for it and help fund it with lunch, and the colleges and universities would provide students with mentor and tutor. I think if we did that from 3 to 8, and also involve Indy Parks as well, and get people to work actually past 5 o'clock on some days, it'll actually go a long way to solving our juvenile issue and also making sure kids are on the right track. And like I said, you can find all this at abdulforindy.com.
Thank you. So I want to thank all the candidates, Mr. Shreve, Mr. Shabazz, Mr. Jackson, and Mr. Couch, for your participation. To the audience, thank you for your thoughtful questions. I hope you've learned a lot about the candidates tonight, and what you've heard here will help you make an informed decision on who will get your vote for mayor of Indianapolis. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Got my gun for you.